We're talking about a significant advancement in the war on drug cartels today. This action has the potential to permanently alter how the U.S. guards its borders. The United States and drug cartels are engaged in an armed struggle, according to President Trump's official declaration. This signifies a change in strategy toward drug traffickers operating outside of U.S. boundaries. President Trump informed Congress on October 1, 2025, that drug cartels operating throughout Latin America are now engaged in military conflict with the United States. Cartel leaders and members have been referred to as unlawful combatants in official legal terminology. The purpose of the stance change is to grant the U.S. military the legal right to fight cartel organizations, including in international waterways, using the law of armed conflict. This implies that going ahead, the U.S. military will handle cartel activity solely as a criminal law enforcement matter. The U.S. has hit a number of suspected drug smuggling ships in the Caribbean in recent weeks, many of which are said to have come from Venezuela. 12 persons have died as a result of those operations overall. The Trump administration has maintained that these attacks against Narat terrorists posing a threat to the U.S. were legal. When military forces pose a threat to the United States, this action allows them greater latitude to hit targets, apprehend suspects, and dismantle networks without using the usual criminal justice procedure. When dealing with cartels who have extensive networks and generate billions of dollars in revenue from drug trafficking, that is crucial. It sends a deterring signal as well. Traffickers are no longer limited to only committing crimes. As combatants, they now have to deal with the repercussions. Compared to the Biden administration, when there was minimal opposition and open borders, this is a significant change. Additionally, the goal of this action is to save American lives. Human trafficking, fentanyl cartel violence, and drug overdoses are just a few of the daily struggles waged in the United States. The administration makes it clear that it will not put up with cartel attacks on American neighborhoods by taking the fight against them to a military level. Early in September, we witnessed evidence of this shift in perspective toward the cartels. 11 individuals were killed in the U.S.'s first widely reported attack on a boat leaving Venezuela. According to the White House, the vessel was used by members of the Venezuelan gang Trendu Aguara and was transporting drugs. 3 people were killed on an alleged drug boat when President Trump announced another strike 2 weeks later. Trump referred to them as verified Nazi terrorists. Since then, several strikes have been documented with assistance from regional warships. In one instance, the Dominican Republic assisted in removing thousands of pounds of cocaine from a sunk ship. Critics claim that by circumventing Congress and launching an unofficial war without the required permission, the president is going too far. However, proponents of the theory assert that the U.S. is being attacked daily. Smuggling routes, domestic violence, and overdose deaths. The executive branch is empowered to protect the nation under the doctrine of self-defense, and President Trump is acting in precisely that manner. Because smuggling drugs isn't a military operation similar to terrorism or insurgency, some critics maintain that cartel activity is criminal rather than military. Others caution that the purpose of the rules of armed conflict was never to combat drug cartels. However, the Trump administration contends that these organizations have indirectly carried out armed attacks on U.S. citizens because they routinely transport drugs, organize violence, funnel weapons, and maintain power by criminal activity and intimidation. That qualifies as a conflict and gives Trump the authority to act as president. Furthermore, the administration uses the term illegal combatants, which is already widely accepted in wartime definitions, to refer to cartel members who commit acts against the United States. Transnational cartel operators are not defenseless citizens. By going to war with the United States, they have given up protections. Rules of engagement, supervision, and legal review are other features of military operations carried out in accordance with the law of armed conflict. Since too many Americans have already lost their lives to drug abuse, the decision is between taking a chance and doing nothing. The proclamation made by President Trump represents a sea change in the fight against narcotics. Declaring cartels to be armed enemies, the U.S. has been losing this war for decades. It's a strong reaffirmation of American safety and superiority. Furthermore, even while Trump's detractors and Democrats will yell that he is implementing a military dictatorship, the truth is that more innocent people are killed every day that we put off taking action against the cartels. Now that the U.S. has formally raised its posture, what happens next? Although the cartels won't vanish overnight, a new sort of pressure is now being applied to their whole operational paradigm. They have depended on the U.S. treating them as a criminal issue rather than a military threat for decades. That time is coming to an end. Like shadow armies, cartels such as Trenda Arua and its proxies have operated. Their trafficking operations have provided them with weapons, mobility, and substantial financial resources. However, that risk drastically shifts when the U.S. military enters the situation. All of a sudden, their high-value shipments, jungle ports, and marine corridors, all of which were previously safe, become targets for not only discovery, but also destruction. Several ships in open waters have already provided us with proof of this damage. Anticipate changes from cartels. To avoid being referred to be combatant forces, some factions might split apart even more. Others might use drones more frequently, switch to more covert trafficking techniques, or venture farther into Central and South America. Corruption efforts to sway regional administrations and armed forces might increase. However, if U.S. Special Forces and surveillance capabilities increase their role, none of it ensures safety. The formation of coalitions between cartels and adversarial governments or militias is an additional potential. They will attempt to take advantage of supportive regimes or political unrest, much like terrorist organizations do. This is one of the reasons why the Trump administration might launch more forceful diplomatic and intelligence operations, especially against nations like Venezuela. Do not misunderstand. This declaration is not merely made once. It serves as the political and legal foundation for a long-term plan. And we might witness a number of significant actions if President Trump keeps going in this direction. Attacks on ships might just be the beginning. With enhanced rules of engagement, drone monitoring, and naval capabilities that can intercept much earlier, U.S. forces could start patrolling and stopping cartel boats in the Caribbean, the Gulf, and the Pacific. We may see the Pentagon assist in coordinating coordinated raids or continuous strikes on valuable cartel infrastructure with the participation of partner countries like Mexico, Colombia, Panama, and Honduras. The U.S. may share more intelligence and provide more covert assistance even if it doesn't publicly place troops abroad. The idea of designating cartels as international terrorist organizations has been discussed for years. On his first day in office, Trump signed an order establishing this proclamation, demonstrating his vigorous pursuit of it. The administration may look into detaining cartel members outside of the civilian justice system now that they can be considered illegal combatants. Longer-term questioning, intelligence gathering, and the dismantling of cartel command structures would be made possible by this. What will the cartels do then? According to some experts, cartels may attempt to temporarily hide their activities by attempting to curtail violence, disguising their activities as legitimate enterprises, or changing their routes across Europe and Africa. Others, however, forecast more chaos and desperation as mid-level operators freak out in response to military pressure. In actuality, Trump is the first president in years to take decisive action against the cartels. After successfully closing the border, he is now focusing on the other methods drug gangs bring drugs into the U.S. The Trump administration's strikes and defensive posture have made the U.S. more secure against these drug cartels every day.